Ingrid Bergman.
Ingrid Bergman was a Swedish actress who starred in a variety of European and American films. She won 3 Academy Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, 4 Golden Globe Awards and the Tony Award for Best Actress. She is ranked as the 4th greatest female star of American cinema of all time by the American Film Institute. She is best remembered for her roles as Ilsa Lund in Casablanca, a World War II drama co-starring Humphrey Bogart, and as Alicia Huberman in Notorious, an Alfred Hitchcock thriller co-starring Cary Grant. Before becoming a star in American films, she had been a leading actress in Swedish films. Her first introduction to U.S. audiences came with her starring role in the English-language remake of Intermezzo in 1939. In the United States, she brought to the screen a Nordic freshness and vitality, along with exceptional beauty and intelligence, and according to the St. James Encyclopedia of Popular Culture, she quickly became the ideal of American womanhood, and one of Hollywood's greatest leading actresses. After her performance in Victor Fleming's remake of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in 1941, she was noticed by her future producer David O. Selznick, who called her the most completely conscientious actress he had ever worked with. He started her with a 1-film role at her insistence, then signed a 4-film contract, also at her insistence, rather than the typical 7-year acting contracts typically signed with foreign actors at that time, thereby supporting her continued success. A few of her other starring roles, besides Casablanca, included For Whom the Bell Tolls, 1943, Gaslight, 1944, The Bells of St. Mary's, 1945, Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound, 1945, Notorious, 1946, and Under Capricorn, 1949, and the independent production, Joan of Arc, 1948. In 1950, after a decade of stardom in American films, she starred in the Italian film Stromboli, which led to a love affair with director Roberto Rossellini while they were both already married. The affair and then marriage with Rossellini created a scandal that forced her to remain in Europe until 1956, when she made a successful Hollywood return in Anastasia, for which she won her 2nd Academy Award, as well as the forgiveness of her fans. Many of her personal and film documents can be seen in the Wesleyan University Cinema Archives.
Early years, 1915-38.
Bergman, named after Princess Ingrid of Sweden, was born in Stockholm, on August 29, 1915 to a Swedish father, Justus Samuel Bergman, and his German wife, Frida Henrietta Friedel, née Adler, Bergman. When she was 3 years of age, her mother died. Her father, who was an artist and photographer, died when she was 13. In the years before he died, he wanted her to become an opera star, and had her take voice lessons for 3 years. But she always knew from the beginning that she wanted to be an actress, sometimes wearing her mother's clothes and staging plays in her father's empty studio. Her father documented all her birthdays with a borrowed camera. After his death, she was sent to live with an aunt, who died of heart disease only 6 months later. She then moved in with her Aunt Huda and Uncle Otto, who had 5 children. At 17, in 1932, Bergman was allowed only one chance to become an actress by entering an acting competition with the Royal Dramatic Theatre in Stockholm. 30-31 Bergman recalls her feelings during that competition. Her impression was wrong, as she later met one of the judges who described how the others viewed her performance. As a result, she received a scholarship to the state-sponsored Royal Dramatic Theatre School, where Greta Garbo had years earlier earned a similar scholarship. After several months she was given a part in a new play, Et Brot, a crime, written by Sigfrid Seiwertz. Yet, this was totally against procedure at the school, notes Chandler, where girls were expected to complete 3 years of study before getting such acting roles. 33. During her first summer break, she was also hired by a Swedish film studio, which led to her leaving the Royal Dramatic Theatre after just 1 year, to work in films full-time. Her first film role after leaving the Royal Dramatic Theatre was a small part in 1935's Munkborgsgreven, although she had previously been an extra in the 1932 film Landskamp. She went on to act in a dozen films in Sweden, including En kvinnas ansikt, which was later remade as A Woman's Face with Joan Crawford, and one film in Germany, Die via Gisellen, The Four Companions, 1938.
Hollywood period, 1939-49. Intermezzo, A Love Story 1939.
Bergman's first acting role in the United States came when Hollywood producer David O. Selznick brought her to America to star in Intermezzo, A Love Story, an English-language remake of her 1936 Swedish film, Intermezzo. Unable to speak English and uncertain about her acceptance by the American audience, she expected to complete this one film and return home to Sweden. Her husband, Dr. Petter Lindström, remained in Sweden with their daughter Pia, born 1938, 63. In the film she played the role of a young piano accompanist opposite Leslie Howard as a famous violin virtuoso. She arrived in Los Angeles on May 6, 1939, and stayed at the Selznick home until she could find another residence. According to Selznick's son, Danny, who was a child at the time, his father had a few concerns about Ingrid. She didn't speak English, she was too tall, her name sounded too German, and her eyebrows were too thick. Bergman was soon accepted without having to modify her looks or name, despite some early suggestions by Selznick. He let her have her way, notes A Story in Life magazine. Selznick understood her fear of Hollywood makeup artists, who might turn her into someone she wouldn't recognize, and instructed them to lay off. He was also aware that her natural good looks would compete successfully with Hollywood's synthetic razzle-dazzle. During the weeks following, while Intermezzo was being filmed, Selznick was also filming Gone with the Wind. In a letter to William Hebert, his publicity director, Selznick described a few of his early impressions of Bergman. Intermezzo became an enormous success and as a result Bergman became a star. The film's director, Gregory Ratoff, said she is sensational, as an actress. This was the sentiment of the entire set, writes Life, adding that workmen would go out of their way to do things for her, and the cast and crew admired the quick, alert concentration she gave to direction and to her lines. Film historian David Thompson notes that this would become the start of an astonishing impact on Hollywood and America, where her lack of makeup contributed to an air of nobility. According to Life, the impression that she left on Hollywood, after she returned to Sweden, was of a tall, 5 feet 9 inches girl with light brown hair and blue eyes who was painfully shy but friendly, with a warm, straight, quick smile. Selznick appreciated her uniqueness, and with his wife Irene, they remained important friends throughout her career. 76.
Casablanca 1942.
After the onset of World War II, Bergman felt guilty because she had so misjudged the situation in Germany while she was there filming Die via Gisellen, The Four Companions. According to one of her biographers, Charlotte Chandler, 2007, she had at first considered the Nazis only a temporary aberration, too foolish to be taken seriously. She believed Germany would not start a war. Bergman felt that the good people there would not permit it. Chandler adds, Ingrid felt guilty all the rest of her life because when she was in Germany at the end of the war, she had been afraid to go with the others to witness the atrocities of the Nazi extermination camps. 293-295. After completing one last film in Sweden and appearing in 3 moderately successful films, Adam had 4 sons, Rage in Heaven and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, all in 1941, in the United States. Bergman co-starred with Humphrey Bogart in the 1942 classic film Casablanca, which remains her best-known role. In this film, she played the role of Ilsa, the beautiful Norwegian wife of Victor Laszlo, played by Paul Henreid, an anti-Nazi underground hero, who is in Casablanca, a safe haven from the Nazis. Bergman did not consider Casablanca to be one of her favorite performances. I made so many films which were more important, but the only one people ever want to talk about is that one with Bogart. In later years she stated, I feel about Casablanca that it has a life of its own. There is something mystical about it. It seems to have filled a need that was there before the film, a need that the film filled. 88.
For Whom the Bell Tolls 1943.
After Casablanca, with Sulzic's steady boosting, she played the part of Maria in For Whom the Bell Tolls, 1943, which was also her first color film. For the role she received her first Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. The film was taken from Ernest Hemingway's novel of the same title. When the book was sold to Paramount Pictures, Hemingway stated that Miss Bergman, and no one else should play the part. His opinion came from seeing her in her first American role, Intermezzo, although he hadn't yet met her. A few weeks later, they did meet, and after studying her he said, "You are Maria."
Gaslight 1944.
The following year, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for Gaslight, 1944, a film in which George Cukor directed her as a wife driven close to madness by co-star Charles Boyer. The film, according to Thompson, was the peak of her Hollywood glory. 77 Bergman next played a nun in The Bells of St. Mary's, 1945, opposite Bing Crosby, for which she received her third consecutive nomination for Best Actress.
Hitchcock films.
Bergman starred in the Alfred Hitchcock films Spellbound, 1945, Notorious, 1946, and Under Capricorn, 1949. Under Capricorn, the only one of the three made in color, was a costume drama which has never received the acclaim that the other films that Bergman made with Hitchcock have. Bergman was a student of the acting coach Michael Chekhov during the 1940s. Coincidentally, it was for his role in Spellbound that Chekhov received his only Academy Award nomination.
Joan of Arc 1948.
Bergman received another Best Actress nomination for Joan of Arc, 1948, an independent film based on the Maxwell Anderson play Joan of Lorraine, produced by Walter Wangler, and initially released through AKO. Bergman had championed the role since her arrival in Hollywood, which was one of the reasons she had played it on the Broadway stage in Anderson's play. The film was not a big hit with the public, partly because of the scandal of Bergman's affair with Italian film director Roberto Rossellini, which broke while the film was still in theaters. Even worse, it received disastrous reviews, and although nominated for several Academy Awards, did not receive a Best Picture nomination. It was subsequently shorn of 45 minutes, and it was not until its restoration to full length in 1998 and its 2004 appearance on DVD that later audiences could see it as it was intended to be shown. Between motion pictures, Bergman appeared in the stage plays Liliom, Anna Christie, and Joan of Lorraine. During a press conference in Washington, D.C. for the promotion of Joan of Lorraine, she protested against segregation after seeing it firsthand at the theater she was acting in. This led to a lot of publicity and some hate mail. Bergman went to Alaska during World War II to entertain U.S. Army troops. Soon after the war ended, she also went to Europe for the same purpose, where she was able to see the devastation caused by the war.
Personal life.
In 1937, at the age of 21, Bergman married dentist Petra Ann Lindstrom, later to become a neurosurgeon, and they had a daughter, Friedel Pia Lindstrom, born September 20, 1938. After returning to the United States in 1940, she acted on Broadway before continuing to do films in Hollywood. The following year, her husband arrived from Sweden with daughter Pia. Lindstrom stayed in Rochester, New York, where he studied medicine and surgery at the University of Rochester. Bergman would travel to New York and stay at their small rented stucco house between films, her visits lasting from a few days to 4 months. According to an article in Life magazine, the Doctor regards himself as the undisputed head of the family, an idea that Ingrid accepts cheerfully. He insisted she draw the line between her film and personal life, as he has a professional dislike for being associated with the tinseled glamour of Hollywood. Lindstrom later moved to San Francisco, California, where he completed his internship at a private hospital, and they continued to spend time together when she could travel between filming. Bergman returned to Europe after the scandalous publicity surrounding her affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini during the filming of Stromboli in 1950. In the same month the film was released she gave birth to a boy, Robertino Rossellini, born February 2, 1950. A week after her son was born she divorced Lindstrom and married Rossellini in Mexico. On June 18, 1952 she gave birth to the twin daughters Isotta Ingrid Rossellini and Isabella Rossellini. In 1957 she divorced Rossellini and the next year married Lars Schmidt, a theatrical entrepreneur from a wealthy Swedish shipping family. That marriage lasted until 1975 when they divorced. Also during her marriage with Lindstrom, Bergman had another brief affair with Spellbound co-star Gregory Peck. Unlike Rossellini's affair, Peck's affair was unknown and was kept private until Peck confessed the affair to Brad Darrach of People in an interview 5 years after Bergman's death, saying, "All I can say is that I had a real love for her, Bergman, and I think that's where I ought to stop. I was young. She was young. We were involved for weeks in close and intense work."
Italian period with Rossellini, 1949-57.
Bergman strongly admired two films by Italian director Roberto Rossellini that she had seen in the United States. In 1949, Bergman wrote to Rossellini, expressing this admiration and suggesting that she make a film with him. This led to her being cast in his film Stromboli, 1950. During production, Bergman fell in love with Rossellini, and they began an affair. Bergman became pregnant with their son, Renato Roberto Rinaldo Gusto Giuseppe, Robin Rossellini, born February 2, 1950, 18. This affair caused a huge scandal in the United States, where it led to Bergman being denounced on the floor of the United States Senate. Ed Sullivan chose not to have her on his show, despite a poll indicating that the public wanted her to appear. However, Steve Allen, whose show was equally popular, did have her on, later explaining the danger of trying to judge artistic activity through the prism of one's personal life. Spoto notes that Bergman had, by virtue of her roles and screen persona, placed herself above all that. She had played a nun in The Bells of St. Mary's, 1945, and a Virgin Saint in Joan of Arc, 1948, and Bergman herself later acknowledged, "People saw me in Joan of Arc and declared me a saint. I'm not. I'm just a woman, another human being." 300. As a result of the scandal, Bergman returned to Italy, leaving her husband and daughter, Pia, which led to a publicized divorce and custody battle for their daughter. Bergman and Rossellini were married on May 24, 1950. In addition to Renato, they had twin daughters, born June 18, 1952, Isabella Rossellini, who became an actress and model, and Isotta Ingrid Rossellini, who became a professor of Italian literature.
Stromboli and Neorealism.
Rossellini completed 5 films starring Bergman between 1949 and 1955, Stromboli, Europa 51, Vigio in Italia, Giovanna d'Arco El Rogo, and La Paura, Fear. Rossellini directed her in a brief segment of his 1953 documentary film, Siamo Done, We, the Women, which was devoted to film actresses. 18 Rossellini biographer Peter Bondinella notes that problems with communication during their marriage may have inspired his film's central themes of solitude, grace and spirituality in a world without moral values. 19. Rossellini's use of a Hollywood star in his typically neo-realist films, in which he normally used non-professional actors, did provoke some negative reactions in certain circles. In Bergman's first film with Rossellini, her character was defying audience expectations in that the director preferred to work without a script, forcing Bergman to act inspired by reality while she worked, a style which Bondinella calls a new cinema of psychological introspection. 98 Bergman was aware of Rossellini's directing style before filming, as Rossellini had earlier written to her explaining that he worked from a few basic ideas, developing them little by little as a film progressed. 19. After separating from Rossellini, Bergman starred in Jean Renoir's Elena and Her Men, Elena et les Hommes, 1956, a romantic comedy in which she played a Polish princess caught up in political intrigue. Although the film wasn't a success, it has since come to be regarded as one of her best performances.
Later years, 1957-82. Anastasia 1956.
With her starring role in 1956's Anastasia, Bergman made a triumphant return to the American screen and won the Academy Award for Best Actress for a second time. The award was accepted for her by her friend Cary Grant. Bergman made her first post-scandal public appearance in Hollywood in the 1958 Academy Awards, when she was the presenter of the Academy Award for Best Picture. She was given a standing ovation, after being introduced by Cary Grant and walking out onto the stage to present the award. She continued to alternate between performances in American and European films for the rest of her career and also made occasional appearances in television dramas such as a 1959 production of The Turn of the Screw for the Ford StarTime TV series, for which she won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Single Performance by an Actress. During this time, she performed in several stage plays. She married producer Lars Schmidt, a fellow Swede, on December 21, 1958. This marriage ended in divorce in 1975. Schmidt died on October 18, 2009. After a long hiatus, Bergman made the film Cactus Flower in 1969, with Walter Matthau and Goldie Hawn. In 1972, U.S. Senator Charles H. Percy entered an apology into the congressional record for the attack made on Bergman 22 years earlier by Edwin C. Johnson. Bergman was the president of the jury at the 1973 Cannes Film Festival.
Murder on the Orient Express 1974.
Bergman became one of the few actresses ever to receive 3 Oscars when she won her third, and first in the category of Best Supporting Actress, for her performance in Murder on the Orient Express, 1974. Director Sidney Lumet offered Bergman the important part of Princess Dragomirov, with which he felt she could win an Oscar. She insisted on playing the much smaller role of Greta Olsson, the old Swedish missionary. Lumet discussed Bergman's role. Bergman could speak Swedish, her native language, German, her second language, learned from her German mother and in school, English, learned when brought over to the United States, Italian, learned while living in Italy, and French, her third language, learned in school. She acted in each of these languages at various times. Fellow actor John Gielgud, who had acted with her in Murder on the Orient Express and who had directed her in the play The Constant Wife, playfully commented, "She speaks 5 languages and can't act in any of them." Although known chiefly as a film star, Bergman strongly admired the great English stage actors and their craft. She had the opportunity to appear in London's West End, working with such stage stars as Michael Redgrave in A Month in the Country, 1965, Sir John Gielgud in The Constant Wife, 1973, and Wendy Hiller in Waters of the Moon, 1977-78.
Autumn Sonata 1978.
In 1978, Bergman played in Ingmar Bergman's Autumn Sonata, Höstsonaten, for which she received her 7th Academy Award nomination. This was her final performance on the big screen. In the film, Bergman plays a celebrity pianist who travels to Norway to visit her neglected daughter, played by Liv Ullmann. The film was shot in Norway. In 1979, Bergman hosted the AFI's Life Achievement Award ceremony for Alfred Hitchcock.
A Woman Called Gold in 1982, her final role.
In 1982 she was offered the starring role in a television mini-series, A Woman Called Golda, about the late Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir. It was to be her final acting role and she was honored posthumously with a second Emmy Award for Best Actress. Her daughter, Isabella, described Ingrid's surprise at being offered the part and the producer trying to explain to her, "People believe you and trust you, and this is what I want, because Golda Meir had the trust of the people." Isabella adds, "Now that was interesting to Mother." She was also persuaded that Golda was a grand-scale person, one that people would assume was much taller than she actually was. Chandler notes that the role also had a special significance for her, as during World War II, Ingrid felt guilty because she had so misjudged the situation in Germany. 293. According to Chandler, Ingrid's rapidly deteriorating health was a more serious problem. Insurance for Ingrid was impossible. Not only did she have cancer, but it was spreading, and if anyone had known how bad it was, no one would have gone on with the project. After viewing the series on TV, Isabella commented, "Bergman was frequently ill during the filming, although she rarely complained or showed it. 4 months after the filming was completed, she died. After her death, her daughter Pia accepted her Emmy 296.
Death and legacy.
Bergman died in 1982 on her 67th birthday in London, from breast cancer. Her body was cremated at Kensal Green Cemetery, London, and her ashes taken to Sweden. Most of them were scattered in the sea around the islet of Danholmen off the fishing village of Albacka in Bohuslän, on the west coast of Sweden, where she spent most of the summers from 1958 until her death in 1982. The rest were placed next to her parents' ashes in Norra begravningsplatsen, Northern Cemetery, Stockholm, Sweden. According to biographer Donald Spoto, she was arguably the most international star in the history of entertainment. Acting in 5 languages, she was seen on stage, screen and television, and won 3 Academy Awards plus many others. After her American film debut in the 1939 film Intermezzo, a love story, co-starring Leslie Howard, Hollywood saw her as a unique actress who was completely natural in style and without need of makeup. Film critic James Agee wrote that she not only bears a startling resemblance to an imaginable human being. She really knows how to act, in a blend of poetic grace with quiet realism. Bergman was a tall, natural-looking, and intelligent Swedish actress, fluent in English. According to film historian David Thompson, she always strove to be a true woman, and many filmgoers identified with her. Writing about her first years in Hollywood, Life magazine stated that all Bergman vehicles are blessed, and they all go speedily and happily, with no temperament from the leading lady. She was completely pleased with her early career's management by David O. Selznick, who always found excellent dramatic roles for her to play, and equally satisfied with her salary, once saying, "I am an actress and I am interested in acting, not in making money." Life adds that she has greater versatility than any actress on the American screen. Her roles have demanded an adaptability and sensitiveness of characterization to which few actresses could rise. She continued her acting career while suffering from cancer for 8 years, and won international honors for her final roles. Her spirit triumphed with remarkable grace and courage, adds Spoto. Director George Cukor once summed up her contributions to the film media when he said to her, "Do you know what I especially love about you, Ingrid, my dear? I can sum it up as your naturalness. The camera loves your beauty, your acting, and your individuality. A star must have individuality. It makes you a great star. A great star." 11. For her contributions to the motion picture industry, Bergman has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 6759 Hollywood Boulevard. Woody Guthrie wrote the erotic song Ingrid Bergman, which references Bergman's relationship with Roberto Rossellini on the film Stromboli. It was never recorded by Guthrie but, when later found in the Woody Guthrie archives, it was set to music, and recorded, by Billy Bragg on the album Mermaid Avenue.
Autobiography.
In 1980, Bergman's autobiography was published under the title Ingrid Bergman, My Story. It was written with the help of Alan Burgess, and in it she discusses her childhood, her early career, her life during her time in Hollywood, the Rossellini scandal, and subsequent events. The book was written after her children warned her that she would only be known through rumors and interviews if she did not tell her own story. It was through this autobiography that her affair with Robert Capa became known.
Awards.
Bergman won 3 Academy Awards for acting, 2 for Best Actress and 1 for Best Supporting Actress. She ranks in equal second place in terms of Oscars won, with Walter Brennan, all 3 for Best Supporting Actor, Jack Nicholson, 2 for Best Actor and 1 for Best Supporting Actor, Meryl Streep, 2 for Best Actress and 1 for Best Supporting Actress, and Daniel Day-Lewis, all 3 for Best Actor. Katharine Hepburn still leads the record with 4, all 4 for Best Actress.
Notes.
The family of Ingrid Bergman. Obituary Variety, September 1, 1982, AFI's 100 Years. 100 Stars. American Film Institute. Archived from the original on October 20, 2006. Retrieved October 23, 2006, A.B. St. James Encyclopedia of Popular Culture, St. James Press, Gale Publishing, 2000, Bergman Archive, Wesleyan University, ABCDEFGHIJKLMN Chandler, Charlotte, 2007. Ingrid Bergman, A Personal Biography. New York, Simon & Schuster pages 19, 21, 294. ISBN 0-7432-9421-1, Ziotkoska Bohem, Alexandra, August 28, 2013. Ingrid Bergman and Her American Relatives. ISBN 9780761861515, ABCDEFGH Carlyle, Thomas, and Spiesa, Jean. Life magazine, July 26, 1943, PGS 98-104, Selznick, David O. Memo from David O. Selznick, selected and edited by Rudy Bahama, Viking Press, 1972, in letter dated June 22, 1939, biography for Ingrid Bergman at the Internet Movie Database, ABC Thompson, David. The New Biographical Dictionary of Film, Alfred A. Knopf, N.Y., 2002, the official Ingrid Bergman website, Adam J. Ledger. Michael Chekhov. Literary Encyclopedia. The Literary Dictionary Company Limited. Retrieved March 6, 2007, Fiskdal, Gary, 2002. Gregory Peck, A Biography. ISBN 9780684852904, Smith, David, 2012. Ingrid Bergman, The Life, Career and Public Image. ISBN 9780786472260, ABCDE Bondinella, Peter E. The Films of Robert Rossellini, Cambridge University Press, 1993, A.B. Steve Allen. The Mike Wallace Interview. July 7, 1957. ABC. http://www.hrc.utexas.edu/ multimedia/ video/ 2008/ Wallace/ Allen_Steve.html. ABC Spoto, Donald. Notorious, The Life of Ingrid Bergman, HarperCollins, 1997, Intro, 1957 Academy Awards. Internet Movie Database. Retrieved October 23, 2006, Gary Moody. All the Oscars, 1958 inches. OscarSite.com, a celebration of all things Oscar. Retrieved December 10, 2006, Ingrid Bergman Profile. Cannes Film Festival. Retrieved October 23, 2006, Lima, Lawrence, 1986. As Time Goes By, The Life of Ingrid Bergman. Harper and Row. ISBN 0-06-015485-3, The Punchline. Las Vegas Review-Journal August 26, 2002. Retrieved October 22, 2006, The American Film Institute Salute to Alfred Hitchcock. Internet Movie Database. Retrieved October 23, 2006, Anna, Kanoni. Woody Guthrie's daughter. Interview.